Kong can beat Godzilla. Well, at least that's what this guy thinks. So if you don't know, wadewillyTv is someone on YouTube, and he's notorious for being a big King Kong fan. And me and him have had a history together because back in 2022 we disagreed on a Jurassic World topic, and it caused a massive TikTok live to be brought up where people from his fan base and my fan base were like harassing each other and making a big war on Discord. So me and him have had a history. Now today it's nothing to do with Jurassic World, but today he has brought up how he thinks Kong from the Godzilla x Kong and Godzilla vs Kong movies can beat Godzilla from those exact same movies. And I don't have to say that's pretty dumb, but I want to give the benefit of the doubt. Now usually when I make debunk videos, I actually just screenshot off of the video and debunk it. However, this time I think it's fair if I just use the clips from the video so everyone has context. So now no one can say I'm taking things out of context like with the Goji Center video, and it's a bit more complete. So feel free to tag Wade Willie, make sure he sees this, tell him it's Heroverse, he'd know who I am. Either way, so can Kong actually beat Godzilla? Simple answer is no. So I'll get into why that is, starting off with his first point.
Listen, I already know all the toxic G fans have already clicked on this. And no, if you're a normal Godzilla fan, welcome, I'm not talking about you.
Already off to a pretty bad start. Wade has this bad thing of calling anyone who disagrees with him just blatantly toxic, which is obviously not good, like at all, but we'll still keep it going for the time being.
But boy, am I gonna rustle some feathers with this video. A disclaimer before we get started, I do think that Godzilla beats Kong more times than not. But the whole point of this video is to show you that Kong could most definitely beat Godzilla. Starting off with the first thing that a lot of people don't even realize, Godzilla's already gotten beaten by a Kong before. And this Kong, in my opinion, is far weaker than the Kong that we have now. And yes, it's the rival.
So this isn't the first time Wade has talked about the rival. He actually made a video a bit recent talking about why no one has been able to prove rival had beat a teenage Godzilla, which is the primary argument against it. For those of you who don't know, the rival is this ape that fought Godzilla and beat him and drove him out of his territory, right? But for those of you who do know, Godzilla was a teenager when he fought the rival, and not to mention, it's stated that rival had a gang of apes helping him fight against Godzilla. So for one, it wouldn't even be like a full-grown Godzilla, and two, he had backup and they basically just jumped him. So I don't see how this is a very helpful point, considering yes, while Wade did say that Kong is stronger than the rival, which yeah, Kong is 100% stronger than the rival didn't beat Godzilla, nor did he beat a full-grown Godzilla by himself. Like, Kong's feats against Godzilla are 15 times more impressive than the rivals because he did it by himself and because it was an adult Godzilla. So yeah, rival is not really that strong.
He beat Godzilla with no weapons, just bare hands. Not only did he beat him with no weapons, he made Godzilla retreat. Godzilla never retreats from a fight. Matter of fact, he fought King Ghidorah head on, something that is way out of his league. But he ran from a Kong?
Wait, if what you're doing here is trying to imply that Ghidorah is somehow weaker than Kong, then it's pretty dumb, because I'm pretty sure it's outright stated that Ghidorah is leagues above Kong. But not only that, he didn't face one rival, he faced supposedly multiple, and he was way younger. So once again, this doesn't really prove anything.
But why would I bring up the rival if we're talking about Kong? Kong fought a stronger Godzilla under worse circumstances. Round 1, a lot of people look past most of Kong's feats because they either don't like him or they didn't realize how strong that feat really is. For example, Kong knocking the G-Man out with a headbutt is one of the most insane feats that I've ever seen from any Titan. And a lot of people are like, oh, that doesn't seem like that big of a feat, right? Godzilla has never gotten knocked out by another Titan to the point where he is like releasing his, grip on a Titan and just falling backwards. And that was like a head-on-head collision, which in a weird way makes it seem like Kong's head is more durable than Godzilla's, especially if he's the one who hit him and it didn't do any damage to his head, but it made Godzilla let go of Kong.
Dude, headbutting someone and withstanding the blowback doesn't make you have a more durable head than the person you headbutted. Like, I hope you do know that. And also, that isn't one of the most impressive feats that Titan has done against Godzilla. Ghidorah literally lifted Godzilla up, threw him from space. The Mutos, the male and the female Muto, were able to dig deep in Godzilla's skin, which not many Titans are able to do, and with that much damage. Muto Prime blast Godzilla's dorsal plates off of his back to the point where he had to grow a completely new set. Like, there are way more impressive feats against Godzilla than what Kong was able to do, just headbutting and knocking him out. And also, you can argue that that was off guard, which I'll have to get to later because Kong fans seem to love taking out of context and off-guarded feats. But we've seen Godzilla withstand more damage whilst being completely focused compared to when he fought Kong, when he was biting and left his mouth open and got headbutted. So for those of you who don't know, when you leave your mouth open when you're fighting and you get hit in your jaw, it has a higher chance of knocking you out because you aren't really biting down and restraining. You aren't tensing up your jaw. You're leaving it loose and you're leaving it there to be hit.
Wasn't nearly as affected as Godzilla was from those depth charges, considering Godzilla let Kong swim all the way back up to the boat after those depth charges. And Kong is dense. He's like made out of nothing but pure muscle and solid bone. Him even swimming in the first place is a crazy ass thing to happen. And if we're being honest, almost any other Titan would have gotten destroyed by Godzilla underwater like that, like ripped apart. Matter of fact, King Ghidorah was ripped apart underwater by Godzilla.
Once again, Wade kind of virtue signaling why he thinks King Ghidorah isn't as strong as Kong, or that Kong would beat King Ghidorah also. But for the most part, when Kong and Godzilla were in the water and they got hit with the depth charges, right? You can argue that Godzilla was off guard because he was the one who was being hit, not Kong. So you can argue that he was off guard and didn't expect to be hit by those, especially when we know what Godzilla gets off guarded by something. It does seem to hurt him a lot, like with guns and missiles and shit like that. So it wouldn't be that far of a stretch to see how many they shot and they caught him off guard because he was the one who was being hit. Kong wasn't being hit, but obviously they're underwater, so it lessens the impact area of the shock waves from the blast. Also, to note the fact that Godzilla was playing around with Kong, like he was kinda not taking Kong seriously. I'm pretty sure it's been stated multiple times. So, he didn't really have regard if Kong lived or died. And when he escaped, he saw Kong was alive, but he just saw them moving away, so he just left them alone. Plus, Ghidorah is way more of a threat to Godzilla than Kong, so he would obviously try harder to kill Ghidorah compared to Kong, because when you look at how both of them fight each other, when Godzilla was fighting Kong, he was more like just trying to like hold him and try to bite him and swim him to drown. But with Ghidorah, he was being more dynamic and moving around and all that stuff, so...
Sedated held Godzilla back. And I know you guys are gonna say, well, King Ghidorah doesn't have arms. He doesn't have arms. Brother, King Ghidorah has two long-ass necks that basically act as arms. Not only do they act as arms, they shoot fucking lightning from their fucking mouths. Kong doesn't have that. Unless you're gonna sit here and tell me that Kong's arms are stronger than Ghidorah's heads, then at that point you're telling me that Kong is physically stronger than Ghidorah in some aspects. Which,
once again, Kong is being toyed with Godzilla. So he isn't taking him seriously like Ghidorah. And I don't think Kong's arms are physically stronger than Ghidorah's heads. That just doesn't make any sense. It really does not make any sense. So yeah, there is that. But for the most part, you have to understand that when Godzilla faced Ghidorah in the water, he was off guarded. So Ghidorah couldn't defend himself as well compared to Kong, who had enough time to see Godzilla and help from the humans to face him. And sedatives don't really work like that. When you are sedated, or you're put under a point where your body has to rest and slow down, you can't now all of a sudden get up and go into a fight and be still sedated. You won't feel the effects of the sedatives anymore because your adrenaline would overpower the sedative drugs. That's kind of how adrenaline works, and that's what it's there for. Especially when your body and brain think that they are going to die, so it just shoots all of your adrenaline at once. That's instantaneously going to overpower any sedatives. Same thing happens in sleep. If your house is being broken into in the night and you're tired and weary, and you see guys with guns breaking, your adrenaline is instantly going to overpower all of your tardiness. So same thing with Kong. So bring up the fact that he was sedated doesn't really change anything, and plus he was up by the time when Godzilla attacked, so clearly the sedatives weren't affecting him anymore.
Godzilla vs. Kong Round 2. Kong could receive a lot of damage from Godzilla without being one-tapped, basically showing that he is relative to Godzilla, even showing as much as being able to overwhelm Godzilla when he's up close, making Godzilla resort to having to spam his atomic breath to get Kong off of him. So not only that, he had to get Kong off of him and he had to tire Kong out because Kong was putting them fucking paws on him. Not to mention Kong with that axe is deadly. If Kong really knew how to use it, I feel like the fight could have gone differently, especially if he had experience against Godzilla. Like, has anyone else ever really noticed how much Godzilla uses his atomic breath against Kong compared to other titans in the monsterverse? Mutos, although he was weaker, he was not using his atomic breath against the Mutos as much. He used it against King Ghidorah, but he mostly wanted to grapple King Ghidorah, wanted to get up close and like grab his head and just boom, you know? But with Kong, it's almost like he's trying to avoid a fight up close, at least in GVK.
Godzilla isn't avoiding a fight up close with Kong if all he's doing is literally going right next to him and trying to blast his head off with the atomic breath. That isn't really what's going on. And additionally, there was the whole start of the fight where Godzilla grabbed a hold of Kong and was ragdolling him. A full powered Kong, by the way. So this isn't like he's tired from fighting, no. Kong just burst onto the scene, gets grabbed a hold of by Godzilla, slammed into buildings and overpowered, and then Godzilla tries to shoot the atomic breath and it doesn't really work because Kong knows what it is and is trying his best to dodge it. As far as all the other titans go, as you already said, he was weakened against Imuto, so he couldn't use his atomic breath as much, and against Ghidorah he used the breath numerous times. But you see, the thing is, once again Godzilla was toying with Kong and he didn't really care if he died or not, because to Godzilla, Kong wasn't really much of a threat, at least not until the whole explosion.
So what did he do? He used his atomic breath. And by using that, it tired Kong out enough for him to be able to get close and then do some real damage. Kong knocked Godzilla the fuck out, which is the second time that he's knocked Godzilla out in the same movie, which means Kong has a consistent record for knocking Godzilla the fuck out every single time they meet. Granted, Godzilla does a lot more damage considering he is the one who ends up killing Kong, or nearly killing him, whichever way you want to see it. Kong still does really good against Godzilla.
Bro, not Wade unironically saying that Godzilla killed Kong when his whole premise of the video is saying that Kong can't beat Godzilla. So in this instance here, Wade is trying to say that Kong knocks out Godzilla and it's consistent that he can do so. However, I already said with the ocean fight, it was headbutt that caught Godzilla off guard while his mouth was open, so he more easily be knocked out. And additionally, the whole endeavor with the axe, Godzilla is shooting his atomic breath while Kong is flying at him with the axe. And then when it meets in the middle, the atomic energy from the axe and the point of Godzilla's jaw where his atomic breath starts to shoot from collide, and that's what caused the massive explosion. Kong did not knock Godzilla out. Godzilla knocked himself out with the atomic breath hitting the axe. Sure, Kong was the one wielding it, but that doesn't mean that Kong could just knock Godzilla out with that, because you have to look at the factors that come into it along with the context. Kong had hit Godzilla clean multiple times in that fight there and hadn't done nearly as much damage to Godzilla. He hadn't even really stunned him. It was more just throwing Godzilla off guard with like the punches. So saying that he just knocks him out bad, it doesn't make any sense. Plus, Kong also got knocked out by that hit.
Also, that big blast that sent Kong flying back and sent Godzilla falling over while he was knocked out somehow did a lot more damage to Godzilla than it did to Kong, and both exploded right in their face. And Kong was unscathed by it, Godzilla was knocked out. I know everyone's gonna say, well, Godzilla's the one who got hit in the head with the axe, which that makes a lot of sense. And I don't even know if Godzilla even really got hit or the explosion just happened right in front of his face. Either way, I see what you're saying. But in that case, you're comparing Godzilla's durability to Kong's durability. Kong's durability shouldn't be anywhere near Godzilla's durability. So for Godzilla to be knocked out by that blast, and for Kong to be practically unscathed by that blast, shows that he ain't just some pussy, bro. Kong has them hands.
Here's our next problem that Wade is kind of propagating here. So he's unironically downplaying Kong's chances and Kong's attributes to try and make his feat seem far better in hindsight. However, why wouldn't Kong and Godzilla be like somewhat comparable in durability? You literally said yourself Kong's a ball of muscle, so you know what I mean? I just don't understand that. Plus, you say that Godzilla was knocked out and Kong was unscathed. Kong wasn't unscathed, he got sent flying back. And the only reason it may seem like he recovered quicker was because Godzilla hit a building and then all the smoke and stuff from that got in his face when he was rising back up. However, we see that around the same time Kong recovers and climbs on top of the building. So if anything, they both got knocked out but at the same time or knocked down. But there's clearly some distance between where both of them are, and they have to cover that distance to reach each other. Therefore, it kind of just throws the point out the window because we don't really know if either one got knocked out, because for all we know they could both be just moving towards each other again.
Round 3, Kong's biggest mistake. Letting Godzilla wake up. See, this is where Godzilla takes the edge in durability and experience. Godzilla's durability allowed him to take all of that damage that Kong was giving him, and his experience shows that you kill whoever the hell you're fighting, especially in a battle like that. He crawled the building instead of finishing the job, however that may have been, which gave Godzilla enough time to go into crocodile mode and then attack the hell out of my boy. See, Godzilla has fought many Kongs before this, so fighting Kong again is like a walk in the park, at least knowing what he's gonna do. This is Kong's first time, so I understand why he made that mistake. Hell, maybe he thought Godzilla was dead, maybe he didn't know that Godzilla has crazy ass durability. But either way, when Godzilla got back up, they got the fighting and Kong got his ass handed to him.
Here's the problem with how this whole thing circles back to the original point. At the start of, and the whole premise of the video is that Kong can beat Godzilla, but all Willy basically does for the remainder of the video is talk about how Kong didn't beat Godzilla, he more just put up a good fight. And I don't have to explain how putting up a good fight isn't beating somebody, that's just putting up a good fight. So I don't really understand what was the whole point of the video if the entire thing would just backtrack to the fact that Kong doesn't even beat Godzilla, he just put up a good fight. And you think based on some chances that he can beat Godzilla, even though, as you said yourself, he got his ass handed to him. So I don't really understand the whole point of making the video if this is what you actually got from that entire thing you said?
We'll have to say, out of every single Kong Godzilla's ever fought, it seems like he's had the most trouble with this one. Or the rival, I guess, because the rival did make him run away, but still. Godzilla won round 3, fair and square. Godzilla just killed Kong, basically. Now, Godzilla and Kong versus Mechagodzilla. This shows how dangerous Kong could be with a supercharged axe. He chopped through Mechagodzilla like butter. Now imagine if he did this, except for 2 Godzilla.
Bro, I really don't get why you bring this point up. We saw what a fully charged axe does to Godzilla. Basically nothing like consequential. When we saw they collided and Kong was diving towards Godzilla with the axe, when it hit Godzilla, it arguably did more to Kong by sending him flying back. So I don't think, because that strike directly in Godzilla's jaw, and all that happened was he got knocked out, and it wasn't even from the axe, it was from the explosion. So I would like to think that that explosion is probably stronger than just the axe's slicing. So unless you're trying to say Mechagodzilla is as durable as Godzilla is, that doesn't make any sense. Like, Godzilla would just tank the full axe blows, and Godzilla got sliced by Kong's axe already when it was fully charged, and it embedded into his leg, but Godzilla just ate it and just threw Kong off of it.
If Kong played his cards right in the beginning, well, he really couldn't have because he never fought a Godzilla before, but if he did, it could have went like that. I mean, how do you think they made the axes in the first place? Kindly asking Godzillas to hand over their dorsal fins? No. Now we're gonna move over to one of my favorite MonsterVerse movies, GXK, The New Empire. So, we're gonna have to talk about that Egypt fight where Kong is stated to be holding back against Godzilla. This is a supercharged Godzilla going bloodlusted, angry as hell, trying to kill Kong while Kong is holding back. Keep that in mind. Kong knocks Godzilla over with one punch of the Beast Glove, and then takes his ass to town.
Even though Kong didn't want to kill Godzilla, that doesn't mean he's holding back, right? Just because you aren't bloodlusted fighting someone doesn't mean you aren't going to use your full strength. And I don't see why he wouldn't use his full strength, because you literally just said, oh, he took him to town. Kong emptied out like 25 punches on Godzilla's face, and you think that he wasn't going all out? That doesn't make any sense. Also, the shot that knocked Godzilla down was a shot off balance. It wasn't a concussive knockdown. It was basically because Godzilla was running and ran into a punch from Kong whilst being off balanced, and it was just the force knocked him over, rather than the force was so much that it knocked him out or knocked him down, like concussively. There's a big difference there.
Godzilla's been killing all these other titans beforehand, and now he's fighting Kong and getting his ass decimated. Now, I do want to go over the comments that say, well, Kong was using the Beast Glove, which makes him extremely strong and it makes him yada yada yada. Yes and no. The Beast Glove just makes adrenaline run through his body. So yes, it makes him stronger, but it's not because they're giving him a steroid or it's, you know, super powering his punches up. It's the fact that it's making his adrenaline on 10 24/7 whenever he's fighting other titans.
Bro, I really don't get this. You said they're shooting him up with adrenaline 24/7 and that wouldn't make him stronger, but then proceed to say it does make him stronger? Pick a side, dog. And also, we know the Beast Glove enhances Kong's punching power, because when he punches Scar King without the Beast Glove, it doesn't have nearly the same reaction as when he punches Scar King with the Beast Glove. When Scar King gets punched with the Beast Glove, it sends his teeth flying out his mouth, but when Kong punches him with his normal hand, it doesn't have nearly that same reaction. So that's just incorrect. We know Kong's Beast Glove does amp his punching power.
But the reason why I don't really put, oh, it has metal on his hand into the, equation here is because it's Godzilla. His durability is crazy. Man was near the KT extinction. Man was hit by nukes, so a metal glove should not make that big of a difference. At this point, it's just Kong with his raw ass power.
Oh my god, this is also just wrong. For some odd reason, Wade can't get the concept of upscaling, because Godzilla literally would just have Kong upscaled off of all of what he just said with the KT extinction and nuclear bombs and all that. So I don't get why would you bring that up, because Kong just upscales off of that. And we know that a weaker version of Kong in 2021 is already able to damage Godzilla with strikes. So him being amped by adrenaline and having a glove that mechanically enhances his punching power would just make it even better. Like, it would just make his chances better to like do damage to Godzilla. And even with that being the case, Kong jumps on Godzilla and punches him 20 something times to the head, and Godzilla just wakes up completely unfazed by it and begins to try and attack Kong again. So I don't know what you're trying to get at with that.
Basically with this, Kong's raw power. I mean, Godzilla still got the better of him at the end of that fight, which makes me wish they would have showed Kong if he was really trying to hurt Godzilla, but at the same time, it would destroy the entire plot of the movie. What I'm saying here is we haven't seen Kong's full potential, and I think from what we've just discussed, Kong could most definitely beat Godzilla's ass, and with the right tools, kill him. I still think Godzilla wins more times than not, but people need to understand that Kong ain't no pushover. I think Kong is just lacking the experience to fight Godzilla, because they've already stated in the movie that Kong is one of the strongest titans in the monsterverse.
This reminds me of when I did the Giganotosaurus vs Indominus Rex debunk video, and the person was trying to argue a full potential version of the Giganotosaurus that doesn't exist to our canon view of the movie. Wade is basically doing the same thing by arguing that Kong with full potential, which we haven't even seen, beats Godzilla, which to that I ask once again, there is no evidence of a full potential Kong. The only Kong we see is the one that's in the movie, and that's the one you're arguing for. Stop doing this full potential BS. It never works. It's just an appeal to possibility. And also, once again, I said this already, being able to hurt Godzilla and get him in a bad position isn't beating him. You have said and admitted once again, Kong was winning, quote unquote, and Godzilla got the better of him. That isn't winning the fight, that's just winning some exchanges of the fight. It's a completely different thing. To you, it more seems this entire video has just been arguing Kong could do well against Godzilla, which he certainly can, but then loses to Godzilla every single time because Godzilla is more experienced and more durable. That isn't Kong beating Godzilla. So what was the point of making the video? And you said he could kill Godzilla? No, that axe fully charged isn't killing Godzilla. The Beast Glove couldn't even do that, right? Like, the punches from the Beast Glove couldn't do that. So what makes you think the axe would, when Godzilla supercharged it, got hit in the face dead center and just tanked that shit? That doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
People need to understand that Kong ain't no pushover. I think Kong is just lacking the experience to fight Godzilla, because they've already stated in the movie that Kong is one of the strongest titans in the monsterverse, which is awesome. And just looking outside of the movies and shit like that, we have to understand that Toho is not going to let Kong beat Godzilla. Toho is in, works with Legendary, and Legendary has to run a lot of things by them before they let something happen, and they're not going to let Kong beat Godzilla. That goes against everything that they're gonna, that they put into the contract for, Godzilla. That's probably just not what's gonna happen. At least that's, what makes the most sense to me. They're very strict on how people use Godzilla as a character. But yeah, what do you guys think? Do you guys think that I was tripping? I know that I've made some people mad here today, and I would love to hear what you gotta say. Comment down below.
Well, final thoughts on this particular segment. The whole Toho not allowing Godzilla to beat Kong thing kinda goes in line with what I'm talking about. If Toho in the contract completely negates the filmmakers from having Godzilla be able to lose to Kong, why argue Kong beats Godzilla when the filmmakers can't show anything but Godzilla winning against Kong in most of the time? That doesn't really make any sense and goes with the whole appeal to possibility thing that I was just talking about. Especially when you given the fact that we see Kong have a whole bunch of problems with Shimu, who Godzilla in the same scene was just bullying every single time, and Scar King also, who Godzilla was also bullying. And I know you're going to say in the comments, some person is going to say, oh well, it's an amped Godzilla. It's also an amped Kong. So you have to remember that Kong is also amped, probably not to the same degree, but he is amped, Godzilla is amped, and Kong is still finding problems with Scar King and outright losing to Shimu, who Godzilla in the scene is kind of ragdolling, and also scared Shimu to the point where she just decided to freeze Scar King because she wasn't trying to fight Godzilla. So yeah, once again, everyone who watched the video, thank you. My next video is going to be debunking Godzilla guy. Right, his skull crawler with some dumb instructs video is pretty dumb, so I'll be debunking that next. I'll probably post within the week. And don't go hating on Wade Willy, but make sure he sees this video. And until my next post, love all of you guys.